In a quiet village, Steve was known for his cunning and ruthlessness. To outsiders, he appeared to be a loving husband to his wife, Sarah. However, beneath the surface, Steve harbored a dark side that few suspected. The story of his revenge began when he discovered Sarah's betrayal. Sarah was a beautiful and charming woman, admired by many in the village. She had married Steve out of love, but as the years passed, their bond began to weaken. Steve's controlling nature and lack of affection left Sarah longing for warmth and care. One day, while visiting Sarah at the hospital, Steve stumbled upon a scene that shattered his heart. Sarah, sitting on her bed, was kissing a doctor, a man whose kind eyes and gentle words had stolen her affection. Steve watched them quietly, his anger simmering beneath a calm facade. Instead of confronting them, Steve devised a plan. He left the hospital unnoticed and returned later with a bouquet of vibrant flowers. The flowers were beautiful, but deadly, for Steve had sprayed them with a toxic chemical. As he entered Sarah's room, he greeted her with a warm smile. "I brought these for you, my love," he said, handing her the bouquet. Sarah accepted them with a mix of guilt and gratitude, oblivious to his true intentions. The doctor, who was still in the room, offered to fetch a vase for the flowers. Steve thanked him politely, his voice laced with hidden malice. When the doctor left, Steve sat beside Sarah and began reminiscing about their past. "Do you remember our vows?" Steve asked, his voice calm but tinged with bitterness. Sarah nodded, her heart sinking. "We promised to love each other unconditionally, to stay loyal no matter what," Steve continued, his eyes fixed on Sarah. "And yet, here we are." His tone was sharp now, like a knife cutting through the tension in the room. Sarah's hands trembled as she held the bouquet. The sweet fragrance of the flowers began to fill the room, but beneath the aroma lay the sinister chemicals Steve had sprayed on them. "You know about him?" she asked nervously, her voice barely a whisper. Steve leaned closer, his lips curling into a smile. "Of course, Sarah. Why else do you think you're in this hospital?" he replied. His words sent chills down Sarah's spine. She tried to maintain her composure, but the air seemed heavier with each passing second. The doctor returned with a vase, his presence momentarily breaking the tension. He placed the flowers into the water, unknowingly activating the toxins that Steve had carefully chosen. The liquid quickly absorbed the chemicals, turning the bouquet into a silent weapon. Sarah began to feel lightheaded. Her vision blurred, and her breathing grew shallow. She glanced at Steve, who watched her struggle with cold detachment. "Steve, what have you done?" she murmured. "I've given you a gift," he replied. "A gift to remind you of the consequences of betrayal. You took my trust and shattered it, Sarah. Now, I'm just returning the favor." The doctor, noticing Sarah's distress, rushed to her side. "She's having a reaction," he said, reaching for his stethoscope. But Steve stood in his way, his expression dark. "Don't bother," he said. "This is between me and my wife." The doctor hesitated, confused and alarmed. "What are you talking about?" he demanded. Steve pointed at the flowers. "Those flowers are the truth. They reveal what happens when love turns into deceit." Sarah's condition worsened. Her breathing became labored and her skin turned pale. The doctor tried to intervene, but Steve's cold gaze froze him in place. "She made her choice," Steve said. "Now she must face the consequences." The doctor finally pushed past Steve, calling for help. Nurses rushed into the room, their faces a mix of concern and confusion. Steve stood back, watching as chaos unfolded around him. Sarah was rushed to intensive care, leaving the doctor and Steve alone in the room. "You're a monster," the doctor said, his voice trembling with anger. Steve smirked. "Perhaps," he replied, "but monsters are made, not born." Days turned into weeks, and Sarah remained in critical condition. The villagers whispered about the incident, speculating about the mysterious illness that had struck her. Steve maintained his innocence, playing the role of the grieving husband. But the doctor wasn't fooled. He began to investigate, piecing together the events leading up to Sarah's hospitalization. He discovered traces of the toxic chemical in the vase and realized the truth. Steve had orchestrated the entire ordeal. The doctor confronted Steve in the village square, accusing him of attempted murder. The crowd gathered, their murmurs growing louder as the accusations unfolded. Steve denied everything, his calm demeanor betraying no guilt. "You have no proof," Steve said, his voice steady. The doctor held up the vase, now a crucial piece of evidence. "This is proof enough," he said. "You tried to poison your wife out of revenge." The villagers were shocked. Some defended Steve, believing he was incapable of such cruelty. Others sided with the doctor, demanding justice for Sarah. The once quiet village was now divided. Steve was arrested and brought before the village elders for judgment. He remained silent during the trial, his eyes fixed on the ground. The elders deliberated for hours, weighing the evidence and testimonies. In the end, Steve was found guilty of attempted murder. He was banished from the village, his name forever tainted by his actions. As he walked away, he glanced back at the place he once called home, a bitter smile on his lips. Meanwhile, Sarah slowly recovered. The doctor stayed by her side, ensuring she received the care she needed. Though her body healed, her heart remained scarred by Steve's betrayal. The villagers rallied around Sarah, offering their support and kindness. She found solace in their compassion, but the memory of Steve's actions haunted her. She vowed never to let hatred consume her as it had consumed him. Over time, Sarah and the doctor grew closer. Their bond, born out of tragedy, blossomed into something beautiful. They married in a quiet ceremony, surrounded by the villagers who had become their family. Steve's name faded from the villagers' lips, replaced by stories of resilience and forgiveness. The tale of the toxic flowers became a cautionary tale, warning against the dangers of revenge and the importance of love. Sarah's life became a testament to the power of healing. She opened a small clinic in the village, dedicating her life to helping others. The clinic became a beacon of hope, a place where people could find comfort and care. Years passed, and the memory of Steve grew distant in the village. Sarah, now a respected healer, focused on her work. Yet, deep in the mountains, Steve plotted in exile, nursing his bitterness and regret. He survived on the outskirts of society, relying on his cunning to endure. In his isolation, he began to study herbs and toxins, mastering the art of alchemy. His knowledge grew, and with it, his desire to reclaim his name and strike back. One fateful day, Steve returned to the village under the guise of a wandering merchant. His once recognizable features were hidden beneath a thick beard and a worn cloak. He set up a stall at the market, selling remedies and charms. Villagers, unaware of his true identity, flocked to his stall. His potions promised relief from pain and protection from illness. Sarah heard of the new merchant and, curious, decided to visit his stall. As Sarah approached, Steve's heart raced. She was older now, her face marked by time and wisdom, but her beauty remained. She didn't recognize him, and he played his part well, offering her a small vial. "A gift for the healer," he said. Sarah accepted the vial with a smile, unaware of the danger it held. She thanked him and returned to her clinic, placing the vial among her other remedies. Steve watched her leave, satisfied that his plan was in motion. Days later, strange illnesses began to spread through the village. Patients who had taken Steve's potions grew sick, their symptoms defying explanation. Sarah worked tirelessly to care for them, her clinic overwhelmed by the influx. The villagers, desperate for answers, turned to the wandering merchant. Steve feigned ignorance, claiming his potions were harmless. Perhaps it is the curse of the mountain spirits, he suggested, sowing fear and suspicion. Sarah, sensing something amiss, decided to test the potions. She discovered traces of a rare toxin, one that required both skill and malice to create. Her heart sank as she realized the truth. Someone was targeting the village. Determined to find the culprit, Sarah began to investigate. She questioned the villagers, piecing together clues that led her back to the mysterious merchant. Confronting him, she demanded to know the truth. Steve, unable to hide his identity any longer, revealed himself. "You took everything from me, Sarah," he said, his voice filled with venom. "Now, I will take it all back." Sarah was shocked, but remained composed. "Steve, this path leads only to destruction. Let it go before it consumes you completely," she pleaded. But Steve's anger burned too fiercely to heed her words. As the villagers gathered, Sarah exposed Steve's actions. The crowd, furious and betrayed, demanded justice. Steve stood defiant, his hatred blinding him to the consequences. The village elders, hearing of Steve's return, convened once more. They declared that Steve's crimes warranted the harshest punishment, eternal exile, never to return to the village. Before leaving, Steve issued a chilling warning. "You may banish me, but my shadow will remain. I curse this village and all who live here." His words lingered, a dark cloud over the community. Despite Steve's threats, Sarah rallied the villagers. "We will not live in fear," she declared. "Together, we can overcome any curse." Her determination inspired hope, and the villagers worked together to rebuild their lives. Sarah used her knowledge of herbs to develop an antidote for Steve's toxins. Her efforts saved countless lives and strengthened her bond with the people. The clinic became a sanctuary, a symbol of resilience. Over time, the village flourished. The memory of Steve faded, replaced by stories of unity and strength. Sarah's name became synonymous with hope, her legacy enduring long after her time. Steve, wandering the wilderness, was consumed by his bitterness. His hatred isolated him, and he spent his final days alone, a cautionary figure lost to his own darkness. The tale of the ruthless husband and the toxic flowers became a legend, passed down through generations. It served as a reminder that love, though powerful, must be nurtured with trust and kindness, and that revenge, no matter how justified, only leads to ruin. Theme of the story: 1. Betrayal. At the heart of the story lies Sarah's infidelity, which serves as the catalyst for the events that follow. Betrayal in a marriage is portrayed as a deep violation of trust, shaking the very foundation of their relationship. Steve's reaction, though extreme, reflects the emotional devastation betrayal can cause. The story also explores the idea that betrayal doesn't justify harmful retaliation, as Steve's actions ultimately lead to his downfall. 2. Revenge and consequences. Steve's choice to poison Sarah illustrates the destructive nature of revenge. Instead of seeking resolution or forgiveness, he allows his anger to consume him, leading to actions that harm not only Sarah, but also himself and the community. The story serves as a cautionary tale, showing how revenge often escalates conflicts and leaves everyone worse off. 3. Love and trust. The tale examines how love can turn into resentment when trust is broken. Steve's initial love for Sarah is overshadowed by his anger, transforming him into a ruthless figure. Similarly, Sarah's betrayal of their marital vows showcases the fragility of trust and its role in maintaining love. Without mutual respect and commitment, love becomes vulnerable to decay. 4. Forgiveness and redemption. While Steve chooses revenge, Sarah's journey focuses on healing and forgiveness. Despite the pain Steve caused her, she does not retaliate. Instead, she channels her energy into rebuilding her life and helping others. Her story illustrates the strength found in forgiveness and the importance of rising above bitterness to find redemption. 5. Justice and morality. The story explores the concept of justice through the actions of the village elders and the moral judgment of the community. Steve is held accountable for his actions, emphasizing the importance of communal responsibility in maintaining fairness. The tale also poses moral questions. Was Steve's reaction justified? And does Sarah bear responsibility for betraying his trust? 6. Resilience and healing. Sarah's recovery from both the poisoning and the emotional trauma underscores the theme of resilience. She transforms her pain into purpose, becoming a healer and a source of hope for her community. This transformation highlights the human capacity to overcome adversity and emerge stronger. 7. Cautionary tale. As a folktale, the story serves to warn against the dangers of unchecked emotions. Steve's inability to move past his anger and bitterness leads to his ruin. It reminds readers that revenge is a destructive force, often consuming the person who wields it. Similarly, Sarah's initial betrayal highlights the consequences of selfish actions in relationships. 8. Community and unity. The role of the village is central to the story. The community's support for Sarah and its ultimate rejection of Steve highlight the strength found in unity. The villagers rally around Sarah, helping her recover and rebuild, demonstrating the importance of collective effort in overcoming challenges. The story weaves its themes into a rich narrative about human emotions, relationships, and choices. It invites readers to reflect on the impact of their actions and the importance of compassion, trust, and forgiveness in fostering harmony, both in personal relationships and within the community.